So I want to touch on the Arctic morph in this video because I think it's one of the most important morphs in hognose snakes. It's definitely one of my favorites, but it can be a little difficult to identify this gene in hognose snakes, especially when you don't have a high quality Arctic. So about a year ago, I made this video, does my hognose snake have the Arctic gene? And I kind of went over the key characteristics such as the melanin around the saddles, as well as the melanin around the head flags, which are two distinguishing indicators. But now that I have them in my collection, let's see. So right here is just my normal wild type hog nose. Her name is Betty. She's 100% het leucistic. And so this is what you usually see in the wild. She doesn't have the Arctic gene. She's very pretty with those brown saddles. And once I compare her with my other Arctics that are 100% Arctics, you'll start to see the difference, especially in terms of the background. And so this is my Arctic anaconda female that I produced this year. And she doesn't have a lot of melanin around her saddles, but you can see a lot of contrast between her saddles and her background, which is another key indicator for the Arctic gene. And this is my Arctic anaconda male, 100% het Mai Tai. And you can see he doesn't have as much contrast between his background and his saddles, but he does have more melanin around his saddles, especially his head and his neck flag. But you can clearly see that pop in his saddles due to that contrast compared to just a wild type hognose snake. And this is my Arctic conda female, and compared to the previous two Arctic condas, she probably has the least amount of contrast between her background and her saddles. But when you take a closer look at her head, you can definitely see the melanin around her head stamp. And this is her side by side with the first Arctic conda that I showed you in this video. And you can see the first Arctic anaconda has a lot more contrast. You can clearly see when they're side by side. Even though they're both genetically the same visually, you can see that there is a lot of variability in the Arctic gene. And now you can find shovel nose hogs on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Spotify. I have all the interviews that I've done so far, as well as I will be putting out exclusive content that's not found on YouTube. All you have to do is type in Hognose Talk, and it'll bring you straight to my channel.